Hello viewers, welcome to our Facebook live session. Today on this World No Tobacco Day, we have with us our specialist, Dr. Anil De Cruz, Director of Oncology Services at Apollo Hospitals Group and Head and Neck Cancer Specialist. Today we'll be discussing on harmful effects of consuming tobacco. Welcome to our Facebook live session, Doctor.
Thank you very much, Neha. Good afternoon and thank you for having me here.
Doctor, we'll start with our first question. What is oral cancer? Can you explain?
So, oral cancer is a cancer that affects the oral cavity. What is the oral cavity? The oral cavity has 6 different subsites. It's basically what you see when you open your mouth. So, from the inner lining of the lips all the way back to the palate, which you can see is the oral cavity. The major subsites of the oral cavity are cancer of the cheeks, which we call the buccal mucosa, cancer of the jaw, which we call the alveolus, and cancer of the tongue. Together, they form 80% of all oral cavities. And these cancers are very common in our country. 1/3 of all oral cavity cancers globally occur in Southeast Asia. And that's predominantly because of the way we consume tobacco. We use tobacco in the smokeless form. We smoke tobacco in the form of BDs. We apply tobacco to our gums. And we inhale tobacco, what we call a snuff or other things. And all have the activities in the oral cavity.
So, Doctor, what are the signs or symptoms usually seen in tobacco consumers?
So initially when you take tobacco, the color of the lining of your oral cavity will change. Now if we are non-tobacco users and you look into your mouth, the lining will be a healthy pink color. The moment you start consuming tobacco, the color will change and you'll get color discoloration, usually black, brown spots, at the place you apply tobacco or put the betel quid of a smoker's it's seen on the palate and the inner sides of the cheek. These are nicotine stains, tobacco stains. Slowly this converts into pre-malignant change and this is characterized by white, red or a mixture of white and red patches. A white patch is called leukoplakia. Leuko for white, plakia for patch. A red patch is called erythroplakia. Erythro is red, plakia is patch. So the moment you start getting these color changes of white, red, a combination of both, these are pre-malignant conditions. Up to 20% of these patients will convert to a full-blown cancer if they continue their tobacco habits.
So, how smoking or chewing tobacco affects cancer risk?
So we know that the main etiology or the main cause of getting a cancer is tobacco consumption. I'm going to make it very simple. I'm a head and neck cancer specialist. Of all patients I treat, 90 to 95% will have a history of tobacco consumption. I want to add here that it's not only tobacco, but even the areca nut, what colloquially we call the betel nut or the supari. The areca nut is also carcinogenic. So tobacco along with the areca nut causes cancer. So the more you take, the more the likelihood that you're going to get a cancer. But it's not that if you smoke a little or chew one or two, you're immune to the harmful effect. Medical science doesn't know what dose or what frequency will cause cancer. Yes, we know the more you consume, that's logical. The higher the incidence. But there are people who only chew once or twice a day. There are people who only smoke once or twice a day and can get a cancer. So we know that tobacco in any form and in any quantity is harmful and you should just not take to these habits.
What are the symptoms of oral cancer?
So usually, as I said, oral cancer will present with a change in the color of the lining of your oral cavity lining, and it's usually a white or a red patch in the pre-malignant stage. When it turns to malignancy, it will change into a growth. There could be an ulcer, that's a wound, which is very, very common. If it affects the jaw, then you may have loosening of the teeth and a little bit of growth around the teeth, and you'll attribute it to a dental condition. But if you're a tobacco user, it's increasing in size, it's not settling for 4 to 6 weeks, you need to go see your cancer specialist. As the cancer increases in size, it eats into the tissues of your mouth, and then you start getting pain. Then you start getting swelling on the face. It will spread into the lymph glands of the neck, and then you can manifest with some small nodes in the neck. That means it is advancing in stage. In the early stage, color change, a non-healing ulcer or a non-healing growth that is increasing in size. Late stage, pain, eating through the substance of the cheek and coming out into the cheek, or big lymph glands in the neck tell you that it's advanced stage. So simply, these are the warning signs or the signs on how our patients with oral cancer will present.
What is oral cancer screening?
So screening basically is to pick up a lesion when it is small or before it becomes cancer. You can do screening for oral cavity. Ladies can have screening for breast cancer. You can have screening for colorectal or intestinal cancer. Men can have screening for prostate cancer, which is common. Any kind of investigation or any type of examination that we do that picks up a cancer in the pre-malignant stage before it becomes cancer, or helps us to diagnose a cancer in stage 1, is called screening. Now, in oral cavity, there are a number of screening methods that have been tested. They range from just simply opening your mouth and having a healthcare workers examining your mouth for a color change, particularly if you're a high-risk individual, an individual who takes tobacco and alcohol. You have fancy methods also of screening for oral cavity. People shine light into the mouth and then they look back how it's reflected. People scrape the inside of your mouth, put a few cells on a slide and have a look. People stain your mouth with various dyes and see the pickup, the relative pickup of suspicious lesions. Now I'm going to tell you very simply, all the fancy tests have not proven to be of benefit. It's simple examination in the oral cavity that has shown to reduce mortality, reduce death, and that pickup can be done by an ordinary health worker. 3 rounds of screening at 3 years intervals among high-risk individuals showed a significant percentage of patients being picked up at an early stage and a decrease in mortality. Now, we don't have a strong screening program in our country because our country has other healthcare priorities. We are looking at tuberculosis, maternal mortality, infant mortality, various other kinds of problems. So here's my message to you. If you're a tobacco user, gargle your mouth well. Firstly, stop your habits. But if you don't, gargle your mouth well, and in good light, look inside your mouth every month. If ever you see a patch in your mouth and that patch is growing or it looks suspicious to you, go see your cancer specialist. God forbid you're the unlucky group that is going to get cancer. You'll come in stage 1 where the chances of cure are upwards of 90% and you don't have the functional and cosmetic problems associated with major treatment.
What are the different types of oral cancer?
So there are various types of oral cancer, but suffice to say 90% are what we call garden variety squamous cell cancers. This is a classical head and neck cancers. There are other tissues in the oral cavity, like the jaw bone, so you can get bone tumors from there. There are many salivary glands all over your oral cavity, so you can get a salivary gland turning into a cancer. But basically, all cancers, more than 90% are garden variety squamous cell cancers, and they present in the way that I have already explained you, with a growth or a change in patch or a color change. The main different types of cancers basically depends on the subsite that has been involved. So if it involves the tongue, it behaves slightly differently from that involving the cheek. That is slightly different from that involving the jaw. The principles of management are basically the same, but it's just the implications on the type of surgery you do, or in certain cases we recommend radiotherapy. That might vary. But biologically, all these cancers are squamous cell cancers, and they form 90% of all oral cavity cancers.
So, what are the treatment modalities for people diagnosed with oral cancer?
So basically, any cancer across the body has three main treatment modalities: surgery, radiation, that's radiotherapy, and medicine, that is chemotherapy. Now you must know that the majority of oral cavity cancers are best treated with surgery. Tumors are in and around the bone, and it's very difficult to sterilize them with radiotherapy. So whether it's early or late stage, the majority of patients benefit with surgery. Now, if it is an advanced stage, so basically cancer is of 4 stages, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So stage 1 and 2 cancers are treated by single modality therapy. That means either surgery or radiotherapy. We prefer surgery because it's simple, it's quick, it can be repeated if required. There's no significant functional or cosmetic deformity. In early stage, the cure is upwards of 90%. Contrast that to radiotherapy for early stage, where you need to treat for 6 weeks. There's side effects of radiotherapy. Radiotherapy can only be used once. God forbid they get a recurrence or a second primary cancer. We've already used radiotherapy. Of course, radiotherapy these days with modern techniques can be repeated, but it's better not repeated because the side effects can be more, and there are technical problems of repeating radiotherapy. So early stage, surgery preferred, single modality therapy. Now you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that if you have advanced stage and to prevent recurrence, you need multi-modality therapy. So we first operate patients and then give them post-operatively radiotherapy or a combination of radiotherapy with chemotherapy to improve results. So in advanced stage, we give combination therapy with surgery first, followed by radio or radio chemotherapy. For patients who are just too advanced, for patients who are just too sick and will not tolerate surgery followed by radiotherapy, we treat them with palliative intent. That means we keep them comfortable. If the general condition is slightly good, that means we have something known as an ECOG or various staging systems that tells us what is known as the performance status of the patient. So broadly, if the patient can spend more than half the day out of the bed looking after themselves, they tolerate chemotherapy. But they're too sick to undergo full treatment of surgery followed by radiotherapy, then we treat them with palliative intent with just chemotherapy. And if the patient is really too sick, then we only give symptomatic treatment, and that is pain medication. We put a tube into the nose, what we call the feeding tube, and feed them through that. And varies if they have breathing difficulties, we help them with a little breathing tube into the windpipe to make them comfortable. But that's basically just symptomatic.
How does one quit tobacco consumption?
Very, very difficult question. As someone said, I think it was Mark Twain, it's one of the easiest habits to give up, because he said, I've given it up 99 times. So people give up and then they take back to it. But here's what I want to tell you. Any addiction has an addiction of two types. There's something known as a physical dependence, and there's something known as a psychological dependence. A large number of us, when we start the habit, have a psychological dependence. We believe it's difficult to give up. But if we are properly counseled, we understand the harmful effects of tobacco, we all have an instinct of self-preservation. We'll probably stop the habit. But yes, if you have been a tobacco or an alcoholic for very long, you have what is known as physical dependence. When we withdraw the drug, we withdraw the habit, you get side effects. Handshake, you're irritable, appetite changes, sleep patterns change. In those people who have physical dependence, we give replacement therapy. And the replacement therapy is in the form of nicotine patches, nicotine chewing gums, sedation, various other things, but usually that's done under medical supervision. So I think the important thing is to catch yourself when you're at the psychological stage or psychological dependence. And remember another thing, it's all or none. Many people say that I used to take 10, I'll make it 8, then I'll make it 6. That is one of the strategies. But those that stop abruptly, they say stop for a longer time. Apart from that, remember, when do you smoke? When you're having a drink, when you're with a certain group of friends, when you're out at a pub. Now, those are the kind of situations that you need to avoid, particularly when you've just stopped the habit. Then when you're 1-2 years out and you're sure you're not going to relapse, you can go back to that friends group. Otherwise, it's very, very difficult. Imagine you made a pledge that you're giving up. You gave up for 2 months. You hang around with the same group of friends with who you smoke. 3 of them are smoking. You're the only guy not smoking in a room full with smoke. The cravings are more and you'll relapse. Avoid situations that allow you to relapse.
Doctor, we come to the last question. What is the quality of life and benefits for people who quit tobacco?
Excellent. So I tell people to do 2 things. 1, stop today. See how your mouth feels a week later, and see how your food tastes. You'll see the instant difference the moment you stop. I give you another small, very simple test. Walk from your building, your house, your office briskly on the street in front of your road. The moment you get a little tired, mark that spot with a little mental line that you know I walked 100 feet and then I felt tired. Quit smoking. Do the same exercise 2 weeks after that. You'll walk double the distance. Tobacco does not only act orally. It affects at least 14 organs, or it causes 14 types of cancers in your body. Forget cancer. It has an effect on your lung, on your heart, on your skin texture. It affects everything, your taste buds. So the moment you stop, you see instant effects. But the day you stop tobacco, and now I'm focusing only on cancer, the harmful effects of tobacco stay in your body for 10 to 14 years after you stop the habit. So please remember, if you resolve to stop today, it's already late. So you must stop immediately. You must stop immediately. So I have a lot of patients who say, Doctor, I gave up the habit 2 years back. How did I get a cancer? I'm telling you, the harmful effects last for 10 to 14 years after you stop. So that's why please stop ASAP, immediately. And that's the message that I would like to give you.
Thank you, Doctor, for joining this session. Dear viewers, if you have any questions related to this topic, please drop your questions in the comment box and we'll address it to Dr. Anil De Cruz.
Thank you, Neha.